Hey everyone, it's Bethany. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to week 2 of our fun summer challenge. If you missed week 1, I will place a link to that video down below. In week 1, we had fun learning about adhesive vinyl and how to apply that to drinkware. But in week 2, we are going to do iron-on, and more specifically, we are going to create a couple t-shirts using iron-on. This is so fun. It's also very beginner friendly. So if you've never done this, then you're going to be really good at it by the end of this video because I'll walk you through each step by step, and it's much easier than you think. We're going to do 2 shirts today because I want to show you how to create the shirt on 2 machines. I do have a heat press that I love. I love it so much, but I also for many years used my Cricut EasyPress. So I wanted to create a shirt using the EasyPress, but also using my heat press. So we'll do 2 different shirts using both machines today. As I mentioned last week, I'm going to be using my Cricut Explore 3 throughout this entire series because it's more of the middle of the road Cricut, and it's also my most favorite Cricut out of all of the machines. So I'll be using that machine to do all of my projects, but go ahead and use the machine that you have in front of you. If you do have a Cricut Joy machine, which is a smaller machine, I will place a link to a video down below. That video will help you kind of get an idea of the possibilities of creating t-shirts with a smaller machine. It's a really good, really popular video, and you might find that really helpful. All right, let's go ahead and dive into week 2. We're going to learn all about iron-on and how to apply it to t-shirts. This is a very popular craft, and it's one of those crafts that really encourages people to buy their Cricut in the first place, me one of them. I always wanted to make coffee mugs, which we did last week, and I always wanted to make t-shirts. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to share everything about this project from Cricut Design Space to cutting to weeding and applying the vinyl to the shirt. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, and I always forget, be sure to give this a thumbs up if you are excited to continue this fun summer Cricut project. I think this is so fun to do this challenge. I've had fun bringing it together, and I hope you're enjoying it as well. All right, let's get started. All right, so we are going to do a couple of shirts today, as I mentioned. One is more of a basic t-shirt, and then the other one will be a sweatshirt. So I'll show you how to do both. The process is the same. The measurements may be just a little bit different just based on the cut of the shirt. But let's go ahead and look at the designs that I'm going to use. Before that, I do have a little measuring tape that I like to kind of get a basic idea for how big I want my design to be. And then I am going to note for each one, I think the shirt will be about 8 inches wide, and then my sweatshirt I want to be around 10 inches wide. And those are just different because of the cut of the shirt, and you'll just get to know your preferences as you begin creating yourself. All right, so everything is all prepped and ready to go on this end. Let's go ahead and hop into Design Space and get everything ready to go in there. Okay, so here I am in Cricut Design Space in the canvas screen. So I just have a new project created, and I'm going to go over to the left-hand side and click this upload button. I will be using a design that I purchased elsewhere. As I mentioned in the last video for week 1, I don't pay for Cricut Access. I prefer to actually buy my images elsewhere, and that's just because I like to buy designs as I'm creating and kind of buy as I go instead of paying for a membership in Design Space. So I'm going to go to upload so I can access my uploads, and I'm going to use this design, Pray, Wait, Trust. So I'm going to click it, and you'll see that we have a nice green little outline that's indicating that it is already selected and ready to go. Now I can come down to the right hand side of the screen and click Add to Canvas, and then what I will do is I will use this screen to do all of my sizing. Now it does come in quite large, and I'm using this for my t-shirt, so I'm just going to come up to the size area here, double click on width, and I wanted that to be at 8 inches. Okay, it automatically switches the height so that it stays in proportion, and now what I'm going to do is get this ready to cut out. Before I cut, I want to go over to my layers panel and click on the title of the design, and what I'm going to do is simply attach all of the letters together. This is going to ensure that when I go to cut this out on my Cricut, it will cut exactly as I see it on the screen. If you don't attach it, the Cricut will just put the little letters in any random order to try to save space and material. So you'll want to make sure you attach it so that everything is perfectly in the same spot so you're not having to puzzle piece it together on your shirt. All right, over here you can select the machine you're using. Click the arrow down to select a different one if you're not using an Explore 3. Here are all of your options. And then I'm going to click Make It. Now I am going to the next screen, which shows me a little preview of the mat that I am going to load with my material. So what I need to do before exiting this screen is I need to come over and I need to toggle this little mirror button on. I need to do this because I am using iron-on, and whenever you're using iron-on, you need to make sure you mirror your image in Design Space so that it cuts appropriately. And that's because of the way we're going to load our material on the mat, and you'll see that in just a little bit. All right, we're ready to move on. So I'm going to click continue. There we go. And now what it's going to do is locate my Cricut. Now that Design Space is connected to my Cricut machine, I'm able to select the material that I am going to cut out. Now I'm actually going to be using a patterned iron-on for this first shirt, but I like to use the everyday iron-on setting for that. It's just what personally works best for me. Now all Cricuts are created differently, so if this doesn't work for you, you might want to try a different setting, but everyday iron-on seems to work better for me for the patterned iron-on. I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then it will review what tools and materials I'll need. Nothing is required in clamp A, but in clamp B we'll need the fine point blade, and then we'll be ready to load our mat and get cutting. Okay, so you can use the blue light grip mat or the green standard grip mat for this. I'm using my standard grip mat because I'm always just locating the stickiest mat that I have, and that is my standard grip right now. So I am going to be using this pretty pattern iron-on, and when loading this onto the mat, you're going to do it pattern side down or shiny side down. If you can see, there is a shinier side. Let's see if it can catch the light there. There we go. There's a shinier side to the material, and that is the built-in carrier sheet. So you'll want to place that side down onto the mat. And this is exactly why we mirrored our image in Design Space, because we loaded our material upside down. So we want to make sure we mirror our design so that it cuts appropriately, and then it will go in the right direction. And if that's confusing right now, it's okay, because you'll see it all play out in a little bit, and you'll understand as you see everything we did, and it will make much more sense. All right, let's go ahead and open up the machine because we're ready to load our mat. And then what I can do is load this here, make sure it's stick down, and then I can press the flashing arrow button. It's going to pull my mat in, and then it's just going to measure everything to make sure that I have the correct mat in. There we go. Once it's done everything it needs to do, there will be the play button right here that will begin flashing. I need to place this right back down. Okay, and then I can press go. Okay, it's all done. So now I can click the flashing double arrow, and that will unload my mat. All right, let's go ahead and close this up. And I can take my material off of my mat. So I'm just going to turn my mat over, bend my mat away from my material. There we go. And I'm going to grab a pair of scissors because I want to cut away any of my extra iron-on. That way I can save it. So I'm going to cut away here. Okay, and that saves all of my extra iron-on for later. Okay, now before I move on to weeding, what I want to do is I want to bring in my EasyPress Mini, or I'm sorry, my EasyPress 2, and I want to get this all ready to go for pressing the design onto my shirt. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. For my temperature, I went ahead and looked all of this up in the Cricut Heat Guide. You're just going to Google Cricut Heat Guide, and what it's going to do is it's going to have you look up your iron-on that you're using and what you're putting it on, and it will tell you every time and temperature needed for the project in front of you. I went ahead and did that, so I'm going to go to temperature and bump that up to 340, and then I'm going to go to time, and I'm going to have that at 30 seconds. So this little button here is red. Once it turns the green color, it will be ready to go, and it has reached the temperature needed. So I'm going to set this right off to the side, And now I'm gonna grab a little weeding tool. Now, if you have never weeded, you'll use a little weeding tool such as this. There are many different kinds of weeding tools and they kind of just take on different shapes, and you'll find your preference as you get going. But essentially what we're going to do is we are going to remove every piece of this material that we don't want on our final project. So in this case, I like to start with the surrounding area of my design. So everything that surrounds my letters. And iron-on is so easy to weed. It's really, really just, I always find that to be like really soft, and it's nice because unlike adhesive vinyl, it's not sticky or anything like that. So it's super nice and easy to work with. Okay, so I'm just gonna go all the way around here. Being mindful to be gentle though, just so that I don't accidentally rip my design. It's pretty forgiving, but you still want to be gentle. Okay, there we go. I just try to do the best I can on that first pass. And then I go through with my weeding tool and get all of the little middles or anything that I've missed. So you want to go through each and every letter. Make sure you don't have anything that needs to come out there. Whoops. There we go. Then we have little pieces of this W. And looks like we have just some extra material here. Okay, now what I like to do, especially with iron-on, because once it's pressed onto the shirt, it's on there. So I like to turn this over, and now you can see that's why we mirrored our image, because we cut it this way, but we're going to lay it on our shirt this way. And now it's the correct side up. Okay, so now I just like to take a weeding tool. I just run it over and scan my entire design, just making sure that my eye kind of tracks that. It allows me just to look at it as a whole and make sure I don't have anything left to weed out. Okay, that looks great. So as my press begins heating up, I'm gonna get my shirt out and get that prepped. I'm going to be using a heat mat, and what I'm going to do is bring my shirt in, okay, and get it all straightened out. Okay, now before I do anything, I'm going to take my press and I'm just going to kind of hover it over the area that I'm going to put my design. And I'm doing this just to not only kind of get all the wrinkles out, but also to make sure that there's no moisture in the shirt. And if you have moisture in the shirt, it's just another thing that may prevent the iron-on from laying down really nice. So just about 5 to 10 seconds is all you'll need there. Okay, and now I'm going to take my lint roller and just run it over the shirt and remove any lint that may be on the surface. And again, this is just helping your iron-on lay down. You don't want anything in between your design and your shirt. You want your design going directly on the shirt. Okay, there we go. It's all prepped and ready. So now we can bring our design in. One of the best things about iron-on is you can just hover it around. Unlike last week when we did adhesive vinyl, you are studying that and placing it down. But with iron-on, you can just keep moving it and you can keep positioning it, and nothing is permanent until you apply the heat. Okay, so I'm just getting an idea. I am one of those people that eyeballs things really well. So you can bring out a measuring tape, but that looks good to me. Okay, I like how that looks. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my heat press back in, and I might need to do it in sections because of the size of my design. So why don't I start over on this right side, and I'm going to press the Cricut button. There we go. And it will begin the countdown. Now this did say 30 seconds with firm pressure, so I'm just going to add a little bit of pressure here. Okay, and it's finishing up the last few seconds. All right, so now I can take up my heat press, and then I can see the area that wasn't pressed down, so I'll just move my press right over to that side, and I'll press go again. Just add that pressure and let it count down. Okay, there we go. Now I'll bring my press up and place it right back in the little cradle base here. And now what I'm going to do is, because this is a cool peel, I'm just going to bring that onto a cold surface, and my glass mat is really cold. This is just going to help draw out that heat really quickly. I'm a little bit more of an impatient crafter. I like to just get things done, right? Every once in a while I like to take my time, but with things like waiting for paint to dry and waiting for things to cool, I just want that to hurry up. So I facilitate a little quicker of a cool time by just encouraging it on a cool surface. Now I can just take my liner and I'm going to begin peeling it away, and I'll just monitor all of my little edges to make sure that everything has laid down, because if there's any area that is, that one kind of has a little bit of a area there. If there's any area that you find is kind of pulling up, then you'll want to apply some more heat. There we go. And I think I will. There, I just had one little problem area. I think I'll apply just one, maybe about 15 more seconds. So now what I'll do is, just to make sure, bring my mat back in, my shirt back in, but I want to make sure that I place my liner right back over my design. You do not want to place heat on exposed iron-on. So I'm just going to place that right back on. There we go. And I'm gonna do just 15 seconds. So just like this. And then I'll move it over for the remaining 15 seconds, just to make sure. Sometimes that initial tug when you're peeling it up also kind of creates some little problem areas, because it's quite a tug that first time. Okay, move that over. So a little additional heat once it's cooled, just allow it to cool in between. A little additional heat sometimes does the trick. Okay, there we go. And now, let that cool. Okay, and then this time it's a little bit on the warm side. And I'll just peel that off. And there we go. There is our first shirt. Isn't that cute? I love a fun pattern on a nice gray shirt. I think it's so fun. This also is really fun with navy. Super, super fun. Okay, so there's our first shirt. Why don't we go ahead and just repeat all of the steps, but we're going to do the next shirt with the heat press. Okay, I'm back in Design Space. I'm going to repeat all those steps. So upload, select the image that I'm using, add to canvas. I'm going to go a little bit quicker this time, but I want to do this twice because repetition can really be helpful when learning something new. Now I'm going to size this. Again, I'm going to do about 10 inches for a width here, and it will automatically adjust my height. And then what I'm going to do is come over, select the file name. In this case, the file name is 4, and I'm going to select attach. All right, I'm all set. I can go ahead and make sure that I'm using the right machine, say make it, and then here I'm going to come over, mirror my image, and click continue. Once Design Space finds my Cricut Explorer 3, I can select Everyday Iron-On. This time I'm using an iron-on called Caesar Easy Weed. It is my absolute favorite to work with, and for that I use the Everyday Iron-On cut setting. All right, same as last time, no tool in clamp A, fine point blade in clamp B, and we're ready to load our mat. But also double check that your mirror is indeed turned on. Always double check, because if it's not, everything cuts out in the wrong direction and then your design will be backwards on your shirt. Okay, my Cricut mat is back. This time I'm using a white iron-on. Now you also will see this called HTV for heat transfer vinyl. They are one and the same. Different companies call them different things. So HTV, iron-on, those terms are used interchangeably. Now it's a little harder because we don't have a pattern this time to differentiate the sides, but you will now use that shiny little side and you'll place the shiny side down onto the mat. So let me go ahead, I'm gonna roll this up. Sometimes it helps. And pardon the gunk on my mat. It's, you know, sometimes when a mat looks all crazy, it's because there's been a lot of great crafting. Okay, now I'm gonna line this up. There we go. Press that down. There we go. All right, open up the machine here. We are ready to load. Okay, flashing double arrows to load. It will measure and make sure that we have the correct mat loaded. And then once it's done everything that it needs to do, then that flashing play button will begin flashing and we can begin cutting. Okay, I can unload my mat, and same as last time, I am going to flip my mat over, bend my mat away from my material. There we go. Okay, now using my scissors, I am going to cut away all of my extra iron-on. That way it's not wasted and I can use it for another project. Okay, there we go. Same thing, grabbing a weeding tool. And I just like to start with my surrounding area, especially just because for me it's a little bit easier for me to see once I have everything all, at least the bulk of it weeded in one little fell swoop. Okay, now when I was doing the pattern iron-on does not have a sticky carrier sheet like this. But the solid iron-on does have a sticky carrier sheet, which is amazing because you can kind of stick it on your shirt, make sure you like where it is, and then you can kind of leave it there, right? If you need to steady your iron-on, you can use a heat-resistant tape to kind of tape it into place. Just make sure that you're using a tape that's heat-resistant, and I will link to one down below in case you want to add that to your stash. Okay, let's see here. Oh my goodness, hopefully I didn't cut off a piece of my design. I might have. It is so hard to see sometimes. Oh, I think I did. Goodness gracious, but you know what? It's gonna be okay. Oh my goodness, forgive me. Okay, going through, doing all of my middles. There we go. But you know what? A relatable moment. Raise your hand if you've ever trimmed off a piece of your design. Ugh. I don't do it often, but every once in a while, the scissors get the best of me and I just trim too close. Sometimes it's just so hard to see. But I'm not going to edit that out because I know you guys like my mistakes. Okay, sorry for the background noise. My air conditioning just turned on, and let me tell you, it is a beautiful day at my house because our air conditioning was off for 2 whole days. It wasn't working, and oh my goodness, by the grace of God, a tech was able to come out today and found out that a part that they installed a couple months ago went bad. So they fixed it, and they fixed it for free because it was under warranty. So now I am nice and cool. So while we have some background noise for the air conditioner, it is a very happy noise in my house. We are much cooler. Okay, so now that's sticking to my mat. Now what I can do is, in fact, why don't I just try, I'm gonna try to find that little piece because I wonder if I could just kind of mend that. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, it's right here. And I'm just gonna try. I like to try fixing things when I can. And I can see why, I can absolutely see why I accidentally trimmed that off. Kind of swoops out of the little design area there. Okay, let's start weeding this out. And come here, little guy. There we go. And here. All right, let's just give it a try. I think we could do this. Oh yeah. I can just place that right on my shirt just like that and mend that. I'm gonna do it. Okay, why not? So here is the shirt we're working with. I'm going to take this over to my heat press. It's going to be essentially the same process, it's just a different machine. So I have it set to 305 degrees for 30 seconds, and that's 305 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is different from the first shirt just because we're using a different product. So always look up your product that you're using, and it will have heat instructions for whatever product is in front of you. So always look that up each and every time. That way you know what's best for your product that you're using. All right, let's go to the heat press and get this pressed on. Okay, so here is my heat press. Pull this out a little bit. Bring my sweatshirt in. And just like last time, I'm going to give it a pre-press. Okay, and I'm just going to reduce the pressure a little bit just because my t-shirt is a little bit thicker. Okay, in about 5 to 10 seconds, I usually go about 10 seconds. There we go. Okay, then I'm taking my lint roller and I'm going to just run it over the surface. I'm also going to, there we go, just get a fresh piece, right? Okay, and I will absolutely link details to my heat press down below in the description box, and it will show what size I have and everything. So I'm just going to get that right on my shirt how I'd like it. And that looks good. I'm just gonna place that right there. I'm gonna do it together. That way, if for some reason like the iron-on shrinks or something, it'll do it all at the same time. Or if it, I don't know, if it contracts or anything. I can't think of the word, but I want to do it all together just in case so that everything lines up and then presses evenly. Okay, I think that looks good. Okay, bring that back and press. Again, 305 for 30 seconds. Okay, there we go. Oh, it looks good. I'm going to take this over and allow it to cool before peeling up my liner. Okay, here it is, nice and toasty warm, and this looks good. Is it gonna be perfect? No, because I made a mistake, but you know what? It's gonna be perfect to me. That's just fine. I'm gonna love it. It's something that I'm gonna be bummed about today because, I don't know, it's a silly mistake. But I don't think I'm going to think of it each and every time I wear the shirt. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and peel this little one off first. Easy peasy. Okay, and then get this off. And again, monitoring all my edges. I don't see any areas that are lifting, so I am good to go with one press. And there is, oh, isn't that cute? Oh my goodness, hold on, let me get that a little even. Okay, that's a little bit better. Isn't that sweet? I love how that looks. That's so fun and an easy way to do the same process but on a sweatshirt instead. Okay, so we did 2 items today, a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, and I hope that showing you 2 not only showed you 2 different heat sources that you can use, but also I feel like when you're learning something, repetitiveness is very nice. So I hope that helped you to see it a couple times in a row. Now, I want you to do this week as well. So if you want to share what you're working on and what you have completed for week 2, which is doing t-shirts with iron-on, then be sure to use the hashtag Bethadilly Inspired, and you can do that over on Instagram, and that way I can see your projects and other other crafters who are doing this challenge this summer can see it as well, and we can encourage you as you are creating. I hope you enjoyed this. Please be sure to give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed learning and creating. Even if you have been doing shirts for years, take it upon yourself to make a fun shirt this week. You know, sometimes it's fun to go back to your tried and true crafts that you love to do time and time again, but have fun with this challenge, and even if you do it all the time, let's see what you create this week. All right, everyone, good luck, and we'll see you next week where we are going to be making wooden signs. So fun. All right, see you later.